The impact of globalization, continued technological improvement, and the introduction of shipping via air cargo has expanded the potential for fresh produce suppliers to develop global supply chains. Utilizing air cargo to ship fresh produce presents interesting and unique challenges for supply chain managers to mitigate. My name is Patrick Wallace. I am a representative of Grocers International and an expert in global supply chains. This video will provide a detailed explanation of a supply chain that uses air cargo to ship fresh produce, an outline of the major challenges faced by this logistic model, and briefly touch upon the technological advances that may help to mitigate some of these challenges in the near future. Air cargo is the most common mode of shipping fresh produce internationally. Established global logistics company Mainfreight describes the highly specialized task of shipping fresh produce as needing to meet three important criteria: delicate handling, temperature management or cold chain logistics, and speed. Fresh produce is such a complicated product to ship internationally because the end value of the product is a direct result of how well a supply chain can manage these criteria, and mismanagement leads directly to loss in revenue. Air freight has become the primary means of internationally transporting fresh goods as it is best suited to meet these criteria. Let's have a look at how a supply chain can be built around using air cargo as a primary means of international transport. At a high-level analysis, there are three major components to the supply chain. The forwarder, also known as the consignor, who adopts the responsibility of sourcing the goods from farmers or wholesalers, packaging the goods, and navigating the regulatory requirements for international shipping. Secondly, airline operations, including the maintenance of planes, takeoff and landing permits, and the loading of goods. Finally, the consignee, who receives the goods from the terminal, managing import regulations, and distributes to wholesalers or directly to consumers. From a more detailed perspective, it is revealed that each stage of the process is a highly complicated web of interactions between different parties. For example, the responsibilities of the consignor extend to include tracking inland transport, warehousing, and freight consolidation. To further add complexity to the situation, the high cost of these logistical functions leads many firms to outsource certain responsibilities. This means that the supply chain is also made up of third-party firms interacting with one another, including specialized forwarding companies, airlines, and importers. The delicacy of working with perishable items, as well as the scale of global supply chains, expose them to certain unique challenges. As previously mentioned, one of these challenges is cold chain logistics. This aims to avoid food spoilage and increase shelf life by ensuring stock in transit is kept at a certain low temperature range during shipping. This requires significant investment in cooling systems such as cold packaging, transport, warehousing, and processing units. Stock keeping and inventory management processes are also essential in maintaining a functioning cold chain. The scale of a global operation such as the one described leads to a host of complications connected to working over international borders. There exists a significant price barrier that typically limits global supply chains to exclusively large multinational corporations. This is driven by rising oil prices in the aviation industry, among other costs. Working across international borders exposes firms to strict, varied regulatory and legal requirements when importing and exporting goods. This means firms may have to alter packaging or food safety processes in order to meet the regulations of the importing nations, as well as the guidelines set out by the industry's chief governing body, the International Air Transport Association. An additional risk of a global supply chain is exposure to geopolitical instability. Particularly, the rise of protectionist policies designed to limit the capacity of foreign competitors is a concern to the industry. Global superpowers and Australia's major trading partners, the United States of America and China, are gravitating towards stricter protectionist policies in response to the recent COVID-19 pandemic. There is a fear in the industry that other large international players may soon follow suit. Air freight has also drawn international concern over its environmental impact. Air freight has been shown to have higher greenhouse gas and CO2 equivalent emissions than other modes of transport such as rail or sea. This concern has led to the concept of food miles, a measurement of the distance that produce must travel from producer to consumer. In theory, the higher the food miles, the more energy that is required to transport that product and the greater the environmental impact. Logistic managers must streamline their supply chain where possible to reduce the distance that air freight must travel and their environmental impact. Recent technological advances are changing the landscape of global trade and can assist in combating many of these challenges. Supply chains are digitizing where possible. The introduction of the electronic airway bill has helped to reduce the numerous human errors that occur in traditional paper-based processes. In addition to this, technologies such as tag-free baggage handling and optical recognition has allowed big data and artificial intelligence to provide a more accurate description of the location and condition of stock as it moves through the supply chain. Global supply chains are complex and dynamic. Fresh produce is delicate and demanding, and air cargo is effective but wasteful. A deep understanding of the supply chain and methods for mitigating these challenges are the only route to success. My name is Patrick Wallace, as on behalf of Grocers International, thank you.